like the example, that big example now is the church in South Narberth. That there's that block of, that half a block that's now going to be zoned, I forget what the number is, but it's like it allows for some business development. Why shouldn't it just be changed back to residential? Instead of going in that direction, why not go in the other direction? Why, when you're going to rezone everything, why not zone South Narberth Avenue or even North Narberth Avenue into, allowing all those apartment developments? Why not go back towards residential, another step back, so that you protect that? And then, because basically South Narberth, you could see it just because it has this train parking lot, you could see it as a potential expansion of the downtown Narberth, but on the other hand, you could also see it as the very edge of an entirely residential neighborhood. And
So you would perceive South Narberth being completely residential and not disturbing that status?
Yes, I think that's part of the appeal of living there. And I think that the downtown as it is, I don't think there's a problem with the size of the downtown not being viable. I think there might be other problems. I'm going to suggest that there are other problems in making the downtown viable, which might have to do with the rents, the type of businesses that are redundant, things like that. If you have a small downtown, there are ways to encourage certain types of businesses and discourage other types of businesses, or find a better balance of businesses, so that it's not, so that it's just more usable, and not, I don't think it's the size of the downtown that is a problem. I think it's actually an asset.
I understand. I mean, it's interesting enough, one of the first slides that Dennis had shown us tonight talked about the railroad track, and before 120 years ago, there was a lot of farmland here, and you saw where things began to grow. And things began to grow around the railroad tracks, around downtown. Housing spurted up around the downtown area. It grows. And I talk about progress, there is a growth there. It may not develop in our lifetime, it may be 100 years from now. But that's something that has to be taken into consideration with regard to where do you see the town 100 years from now to develop. If your position is that South Narberth should always remain residential, it's a valid position. It's something that we have to debate and have to discuss in these committees, in meetings and going for the board. So others may differ. Others may say, well, it's going to grow. The town's going to grow, and you're going to see commercial development on both sides of town. And that's one argument, and the other argument is, well, no, stop it. You're not coming across the tracks. You're not coming over here.
Right, but the zoning controls the growth. That's what controls the growth. It determines the type of growth and the amount of growth. So you could say it's going to grow, or this is going to happen, but by zoning it a certain way, you control it.
I agree, but it's a topic which we will have to talk and discuss further in terms of what direction do we see our town growing in. Do we say to ourselves, we stop at the tracks, we're not going to build one commercial building past the tracks, or do you say, look, the town itself has developed over a time period, and we see where the clusters have grown, clusters have developed, and where commercial activity has grown?
Well, can I throw in something else too? I mean, there's commercial activity and there's commercial activity. And one of the things that Narberth realized early on, I mean, initially, it was all residential downtown. I mean, there was within 20 years, they were realizing, well, you know what, we kind of need a commercial area. So a lot of those houses that were built 20 years later, they were being torn down, and we're getting the commercial development. But, I mean, I lived on a street that had a dentist office 3 doors down. I never knew it was there. It was almost invisible. And so, I mean, I think things like an office use, it's not the same as stores and as like Staples or something. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think we have to be careful with how we term commercial, because they're really different. They're very different, and the impact is very different on the community. And I think, we have to be open to having that conversation and to have it in an informed way too. So it's not an either or thing. So that's what I'd say.
I'd like to ask a clarification on neighborhood notification.
should extend itself to the full block.
Well,
I
I
don't
don't
see-
know about that, because if I want to take a tree down, I have this, oh, I know, but I mean, for example, I have a sequoia redwood in my backyard, which is 100 feet tall. And we're going to have to take it down. Do I need to tell my neighbor about it, or do I take this tree down and have their input saying, no, we like the tree? So this is a, I'm concerned or questioning why I have to have a tree to what I'm doing in my house.
The one item which came today, when I went out to Dudley, one of the neighbors complained that if I'd known, he was 3 or 4 doors down, that the construction, that the demolition was taking place, I would have moved my car.
Right.
Before I up against the edge of it.
But then
I think
get
it's
to the
good.
point where you can say, I don't want that to happen, and then you can fight what I'm doing to the house that I own.
Well, you're putting those, your neighbors, part of it I see as a courtesy issue with regard to advising the neighbors of the surrounding block that this is happening. 2 is, there has to be, and I believe council's going to take up some type of position with regard to a delayed demolition, so we can take a second look at what's going on.
What's the delayed demolition?
Well, just giving a breathing or putting a pause button before the permit's issued to when the demolition would occur.
And is that talking weeks, months, days?
You're probably talking about 10, 15, 20 days around that period of time, I would think.
We're
At
not
least
there now.
not like,
Listen, we're
well,
not there
it's
now.
better than here's your permit and the truck's idling out front. I mean, it's better than that.
But, now this, don't listen, you guys, but it's not really anybody's business what I'm doing with my home.
Well, it is if you're doing it and it doesn't follow code, and I'm the one who lives next door and I want to contest that. There are only X amount of days in which I can contest
That's
that.
an excellent point, because with the code, it needs to be the same for everybody. When we were living down in our small house, we wanted to do something, and we were told no. But then the guy across the street down 3 houses said, sure, no problem. And they're like, really? Why were we told no and you told yes?
We're getting back.
Exactly. So if the code is the code,
But its interpretation is not always perfect. And what happens is you get that breathing period where the neighbor can come by and say, look, it's not, mistakes are made, there's no question about it. I wouldn't have a job if mistakes weren't made. Everything's perfect. You try to address items, you try to address matters. And if something was issued incorrectly, or there's a different interpretation, or the neighbor comes by and says, look, that's not correct on this. That's something we can address. And I
we
think that's
also
what gives you your delay
don't want to
period.
get into a living state where, I don't know, what we should say, why did you do it? So you can't do it, even though it follows through the code. So I just want to caution that you don't want to live in a living state. You want to be able to be diverse.
I think if a permit's issued for demolition with regard to you follow what's required, then you're going to be able to be permitted to do your demolition. However, if there's some issue which came up, such as far as a permit or there's a problem with the permit, at least gives the opportunity to correct that if there's an issue with regard to it. As opposed to saying, oh, if I only got it in time. And I don't think there's any harm or foul with regard to that, because as opposed to like issuing it and running to the demolition, at least gives you a breather period of time where you can make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
And that's what so as I said, we were saying, the perfect role given by one person. There's a little bit of checks and balances on that. But again, I just want to make sure that we're not going to live in a system which is going to evolve to, I can't keep my house safe if I want to keep my house safe.
That's not where people are talking. I think this is talking about neighborly concerns.
Well, that's good.
Appropriateness of demolition in some timely fashion, so folks could know, and safety issues as was stated. No one's in on anyone else.
You actually have to have some identifiable way to stop the demolition, and that would require you to bring it to attention to the person who issued the permit, or to seek some type of redress with the court system, such as an injunction, to prevent it from going forward if you felt that there was really an issue with regard to it. But there have to be some basis.